These aren't the stories your mother told you. No, these are the other stories.
Today's episode of The Other Stories is The Tail End, written by Mary Pastrano and narrated by Josh Curran.
We married, overlooking the vast northern sea. I barely knew her, but that mattered little. She beguiled me at first sight, and, not long before, had saved me from a watery end. How could I not tether my future to the woman who turned my despair into possibility? I owe her my very life. Reeling from the wreckage of my ship in the worst storm of the season, half dead and choking on the brackish water, she, with disproportionate strength, hauled me safely to dry sands. I don't know how she did it. I'm almost twice her size, and she was alone. Waterlogged and suffering the lashings of a tempest, I did not question the details of my salvation. All I knew was that I was spared, and in the fog of awakening, heard singing. I couldn't quite make out the words. In my diminished state, my senses were hopelessly blurred. The melody, though, was hypnotic, like the haunting, flute-like strains we seamen hear when our ships pass the rocky outcroppings near the ports. Many of us swear on Poseidon himself that mysterious maidens call to us on these lonely voyages. The absence of women on trade routes can drive a man to the deepest, most deviant lust. Sailors' longings are made worse by their fevered imaginations. Many claim to have heard the faint beckoning of untraceable voices from shadowy, uninhabitable isles. Whether there really is a seductive force preying on our wanton desires, or simply the pitched bird calls and utterances of sea mammals echoing off rocks in tympanic rhythm, I was never certain. That is, until that fateful day at sea. None of us saw the storm coming. We'd been well paid for our last rum delivery and were eager to spend our commission on pleasures at the nearest port. Truthfully, we'd already started celebrating with a bottle or two below deck, and those who were supposed to keep watch above had foolishly joined in the revelry. The fickle waters were calm 1 minute, and then, with fast increasing winds, merciless to our modest ship. Thrashed about by choppy waters, my young crew was undone by their inexperience and the ruthless rising waves. I'd lost them all, and quickly. The unforgiving storm made short work of us, and seemed to delight most in toying with my fate. I was tossed off ship, but found myself entangled in mooring lines, which kept me lashed to the side of the wreckage. There were hellish moments spent engulfed by the raging sea, before my head was thrust above waves long enough to catch breath, only to be tipped once more underwater. I submitted to death then, immobilized by rope against the timbers like a doomed figurehead, and then I felt it. Just as the ship submerged me, the ropes snapped away and I was pulled through the water with blinding speed. I remember little. Splintered wood, torn sails, and odd claw-like hands that sawed through the ship ropes which held me prisoner. Figments of desperation, perhaps, flashes of memory, shock, and the earlier indulgences of wine pushed me to delirium, and before long, I'd blacked out. My eyes were crusted shut with ocean salt, but by inexplicable fortune, I was safely on the shores of a new country. The sun blazed above, its rays casting my inner eyelids with coral red. I then heard an otherworldly voice which seemed to draw the seawater from my lungs. One sudden heave, and I was on my side, expelling the salty poison, coughing and wheezing so furiously, I thought them my last gasps. I passed out again, and when I came to, there she was, a flaxen angel looking at me with jade green eyes, so filled with concern and fascination. My head rested in her tender lap, and she smiled, relieved that I was not lost. The setting sun cast rays through her golden hair, making her both saintly and desirable. A brush with death will glaze any moment in romantic urgency, and I fell deeply. She really was no great bounty, plain, really, but I have my father's curse in that I lose myself in any woman's attentions. I'm smart enough to know what a fickle fool I am. My fancies are as capricious as the waters on which I sailed. I saw her hand brushing what seemed to be large, iridescent scales from my hair and sodden clothes. "What great fish were you entangled with?" she asked, while my eyes refocused. I had no answer. To her delicate fingers clung the spangles, circular slivers reflecting the sun like the thinnest shavings of moonstone. Each scale looked like blue fire was locked within. I could not place the fish they came from, experienced though I am. The sea has many secrets, and I was just happy to have been spared from drowning. I gave little thought to the shimmering remnants clinging to my body, or the fact that a maiden half my size could drag me onto dry land with little effort. I had been pardoned death, and in haste asked my golden angel of the shores to marry me. She laughed at my impetuousness, but I pressed on. I said I'd meet her father and make good on my word to take her as my bride. I was in a new land with a future ahead of me. Why not a new wife as well? When I gained enough strength to get up off the sands, we managed our way back to her father's estate, where I formalized my intentions. This new place, I came to discover, was sparse of men. A great battle some years before diminished the male population. My unexpected arrival was, in essence, a boon to her father, and he eagerly bestowed consent to wed. Our wedding night was all I'd thought of. I was accustomed to easy dalliances with strumpets at port, but now, under the watchful eye of her father, a man of impressive status in the cliffside town, I was expected to have eyes only for her. My longing grew daily. Lengthy marriage preparations kept us apart. I was in her country, and while the arduous customs weighed on me, I was determined to concede to the letter. We only managed fleeting kisses and whispered endearments as we passed each other. Her bridesmaids kept her away otherwise, and my loins were in a constant state of dull ache. Finally, on a particularly restless night, when the scents of lavender and sea air stirred me awake, I relented to my desires and made my way in secret to a local public house for relief. There, in the dim lantern light of the tavern, I spied the perfect mark. She approached me, smiling shyly, and I looked her over, my last jaunt before the great plunge. Her black salt-waved hair in the flickering light had an oddly blue sheen, and her eyes looked almost clear, like ocean water in a glass flask. Her skin was swarthy, but glowed golden olive. She also walked with a slight limp, as though unaccustomed to her own feet. Polio, perhaps? Who knows with the shore folk? Port life was harsh, yet here was this imperfect, yet no less lovely thing in my midst. She was indeed the oddest creature. She never spoke, but conveyed her interest with eager smiles and eyes so silvery they seemed to glitter. Her dusky contrast from my seraph of a fiancé excited me, and my ale-addled mind was captivated. Her nymph-like face and lush hips were enough for me to lead her to the upstairs rooms, where I indulged in her until the sky began to pale. That night, she held me like she never wanted anyone more, with an almost animalistic urgency, digging her nails into my shoulders as if marking me as hers. I was almost convinced she loved me, strange though that was. And when her affections irritated me, I shoved her away, but not before tossing a few ducats at the floor before passing out drunk. When I awoke, the girl was gone, and the bed upon which we laid was crusted lightly with ocean salt. I asked the barkeep who she was, but nobody knew. "Perhaps one of the rovers," he surmised. "Their caravans come round when the lavender blooms." I was relieved to know there would not be entanglements after such a reckless night, and stole back before anyone noted my absence. 2 days later, I married to much ceremony. The wedding night could not come soon enough. Fresh off my dalliance with the tavern girl, I was ready to seek penance with my new wife. I was wedded now, determined to seize my new status with ready hands. My father-in-law's wealth assured comfort in this new land, and, should domesticity bore me, I could very well persuade him to fund future ventures at sea. It would not be long before I acquired a new ship, if I so fancied. All I had to do was produce sons to secure my family position. Thrilled at the prospect, I led my wife to our bed, removed her muslin shift, and gently indoctrinated her to her duties. Spent from the day, we slipped into the hazy slumber of sated lovers, with her hair fanned across my chest like spun gold. Outside our window, the lapping waves lulled us to sleep. All was perfect and possible. I did not hear the door creak open, nor did I see the shadow of the odd girl from the tavern as she hobbled determinedly to the marriage bed. I only felt the piercing of the shell-handled dagger as it slid under my ribs and punctured my heart. Panicked, I rolled off the bed to seek help as the lifeblood slipped from my wounded side. My new wife screamed in horror at the sudden intrusion. She grasped our wedding sheets to her body and cowered against our headboard. She pressed her delicate back against the carved wood of our marriage bed as though it was a door she could force open for escape. All the room was chaos and fear. I could only rasp and rattle helplessly, useless to her and myself. From the floor, I saw the bare feet of the tavern girl. Where once they were perfectly formed, they now twisted and morphed, splaying wide and elongating like webbed insectoid limbs. The skin of her once shapely legs peeled away in blood-soaked ribbons, revealing large, iridescent scales. My wife continued to scream in confused and wretched terror as the water-eyed tavern girl's body completed its gruesome transformation. Slithering on the floor now was a mournful siren, her glowing muscled tail tipped with large fins, transparent as dragonfly wings. Her upper body was a familiar silhouette, but also monstrous, with long quivering gills along her delicate ribs. She crawled to me on scaly, claw-like hands, looking me over with despair-filled eyes that had doubled in size, all the while wheezing and chittering through a mouth filled with needle-like teeth of a baleen whale. She withdrew the dagger from my ribs and dragged herself wordlessly to a window overlooking the sea. In my final moments, I had a rush of grim clarity. It was she who extracted me from the crushing waves and then retreated in time for my now terrified wife to find me. I remember now, the large scales in my clothes and hair, the tail wrapped deftly around me. The oceanic eyes that betrayed her love were the eyes of the limping tavern girl who I bedded thoughtlessly. She was a sea creature in human form. She imprinted on me, but I carelessly did not return her affections, and, now scorned, she came for blood. The last thing I saw was her silhouette, silver as the moon. She cut through the waves like a porpoise and was greeted with the eager, open arms of other waiting sirens. They'd welcomed her as sisters, holding the dagger together in triumph, as though my blood paid some terrible ransom. And then I heard it again, the mournful voice of the atolls, the song which drew water out of me not long before. She does not sing for me now, for all my foolish spurning. I am, once again, a castaway on uncertain waters, slipping into the deep darkness of an unexplored ocean. To this world, and perhaps in the next, I am irretrievably lost.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode of The Other Stories. The Tail End was written by Mary Pastrano, narrated by Josh Curran, produced by Georgia Triantafyllopoulou, music by Free Music Archive and Tom Robson, and sound effects provided by soundly.org. The episode illustration was provided by Matt Seth Barnes. Joshua Boucher is our story programmer, Jasmine Arch manages our community, Mary Pastrano helps orchestrate the chaos, and the show would collapse into static and screams without the ongoing work of Karl Hughes, Triantafyllopoulou, and James Barnett, aka Jimmy Horrors. Mary Pastrano is a writer and educator from Southern California, whose work has appeared on the Other Stories podcast and the Tales from Midnight Anthology by Surreal Arts Publishing. You can find out more about her on Instagram at Mary P. Writer. Josh Curran is a narrator and writer. He's narrated many episodes of the Other Stories over the show's lifetime. He's also the creator of the horror audio drama podcast Miscreation. The Other Stories is a production of the Story Studio Hawk and the Cleaver and is brought to you with a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. That means don't change it, don't sell it, but by all means share the hell out of it. Until next time.